I want to warn you ahead of time that what I'm going to talk about may be confusing to the mind and frustrated to your mind, to the mind of thoughts, because I'm going to speak about truth. And truth cannot be understood through thoughts or concepts or beliefs. That's what gets in the way of truth. Truth is always here, always available to you, always available as you. And yet you cannot understand it through thoughts. So I'm going to be using words to speak about something that is beyond words, that is clearly far beyond words. Often we talk about silence as being a way of understanding truth, or even that silence is truth. Well, this can be confusing, as all words are when we speak about truth. What is truth? It's beyond sound and silence. It's beyond both sound and silence. What is beyond sound and silence? Truth. It's beyond existence and non-existence. When we talk about silence in spiritual terms, we're talking about letting go of all your concepts and beliefs. It's not a silence as opposed to noise or silence as opposed to sound. It's silence as opposed to thoughts. When your mind is quiet and silent, you realize truth. It's a doorway into truth. And we can use, as we do in Zen and Buddhism, the middle way. The middle way is in between two concepts. What is in between two concepts? It's neither one or the other. It's in between. So it's neither sound nor silence. What is in between silence and sound? When you discover this, you discover truth. Now, you may have seen me before talk about listening to the silence within sound. And yes, there is silence within sound. Of course there is. Sound comes out of silence, returns to silence. And during the sound, there is also silence, if you know how to hear it. So we've done practices here in the satsang to be able to hear sound in silence, to be able to hear sound within silence. So let's use this bell for an example. There's sound here, right? There's sound in our life. So there's sound, there's thought sound, there's maybe the sound of air in your room. There's all kinds of different sounds. So I can't say when I ring the bell that, there's silence and now there's sound. But the sound, all sounds come out of silence, just as the sound of the bell does. And within this sound, there's also silence. See if you can hear this. Within the sound of this bell, there is also silence. This is a wonderful practice because it helps you be conscious of more in life. Because we live through our conditioned thoughts, and we see the world through our conditioned thoughts, and believe the world, believe reality is what our thoughts say it is, we have an extremely limited perception of life, and we miss so much of life. We miss almost all of it, because our conditioned thoughts are extremely limited when it comes to actual life, actual reality. So if we can hear the sound, the silence within a sound, it opens our consciousness to being able to hear more. Our mind says, it's just sound. That's what's there. The sound of a bell. But it doesn't hear the silence that's there because of its limitations. So I'm asking you to open up a little bit so that you can hear the silence within the sound itself. How do you hear silence in sound? Well, you have to pay attention. You have to open up and be aware of what else is here beyond what you think is here. If you listen to the sound of the bell through your thoughts, then all you'll hear is the sound of the bell. You won't hear the silence. So you need to let go of your thoughts in order to open up to experience more. And when I say that truth is neither sound nor silence, I'm asking you to look even deeper, to open up even more, to let go of your thoughts that are confusing you and enabling you to live in a dream instead of reality. I'm pointing towards truth that's beyond words. I'm using words to point to truth that's beyond words. I'm inviting you to let go of words. My words, all your thoughts, everyone's words. The Buddhist sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, everything. Let go of all the teachings and all your thoughts and experience what's here that's beyond all that. That's truth. In fact, everything is truth. Sound is truth. Silence is truth. Existence is truth. Non-existence is truth. Everything is truth. Everything that you see, hear, touch, smell is truth. You are truth. There is nothing that you see that is not truth. Yet because of this conditioned mind, what we're seeing is a dream. We're not seeing truth. We're seeing a dream. So sound is truth. It's just not sound. Silence is truth. It's just not silence. You are truth. You're just not what you think you are. You're just not what you perceive yourself to be. You're infinitely more than that. That's why I say that your thoughts have limited your perception of the world, because you are indeed infinite. And if you perceive yourself through your conditioned thoughts, what other people have told you you are from the time you were born, then you don't experience yourself as infinite. You may have thoughts about what infinite is, and possibly, if you've listened to a lot of Buddhist teaching, you think you're infinite, but you don't directly experience infinite. Infinite is truth. It's just not infinite. Everything that you see and perceive is truth. It's just not what you think it is or perceive it as, because you perceive through your thoughts. And until you stop doing that, until you let go of that, you cannot experience truth. And all the spiritual teaching is wasted, really, because spiritual teaching is pointing to something that's beyond the words themselves. And yet you see how many people grasp onto the words. Even in Zen, people do this. It's common throughout every spiritual tradition that we grasp onto words as if the words themselves were truth. The Buddhist sutras are truth themselves. Well, yes, they are, but they're not the Buddhist sutras. And Buddha is truth, but just not Buddha. Just as you are truth, but not what you think you are. Sound is truth. It's just not sound. Silence is truth. It's just not silence. Your thoughts of sound and silence are illusions, dreams. Truth is beyond that. So sound is also beyond that. And silence is also beyond that. When we perceive this sound of the bell through thoughts, we perceive that sound and silence are two different things. When we directly experience truth, we know that they're not. So the practice of hearing sound, hearing silence within sound, brings us closer to this realization of truth. That sound and silence are not separate. One cannot exist without the other. Everything is truth. And truth is not many things. It's just truth. It's just one. So you, the sound of this bell, and silence are all truth, are all the same truth. You and I are the same truth. And if you can listen to this without the interference of your thoughts, without trying to understand it, without trying to figure it out, without comparing it to other thoughts and other teachings, if you can let all of that go for a moment, perhaps you can experience truth directly. And then you will understand intimately what I'm speaking of, what I'm pointing to. Something that's beyond all words and thoughts, and yet here. Far more intimate than words and thoughts. Words and thoughts they come later. Words and thoughts are a paltry addition to truth and a distraction from truth. They're useful. I mean, it's wonderful. Because of thoughts, we have a common language. You understand my words. You can understand what I'm speaking of. You may not understand what I'm pointing to, what I'm really speaking of, but you understand the words. Because we have a common language. And that's thanks to thoughts. Our entire society is thanks to thoughts. So thoughts are useful. They're just not truth. And you cannot find truth through thought. You may try when I say, what is it that's not sound or silence? when I asked you this question, you may come up with many clever answers. Your mind, your thoughts may come up with many clever answers. The mind is very clever. Everybody's mind is very clever. And this is wonderful. The mind can understand many things. It just can't understand truth. It just can't understand reality. It just can't understand you. So to understand you, to understand truth, you need to let go of thoughts and experience what is more than thought. What is here right now in your room that is more than thought? Many things, right? When you're fully present, you're experiencing truth. You have no thoughts about it. Thoughts are just an interference and a distraction from the experience of presence and from the experience of truth. So even words are truth. They're just not words. Thoughts are truth. They're just not thoughts. They're not what we think they are. And your thoughts, the sound of my voice, the sound of this bell, and silence, these are all truth. These are all the same truth. There is no separation between them at all. And if you understand this with your mind, if you try to understand this and figure it out and say, oh, Ramana Maharshi talked about this, and Buddha talked about this, and Dogen talked about this, and you have a belief that this is true, you're missing what it's pointing to. You're missing actual truth, which is beyond all those thoughts and all those teachings and everything that you think and believe. So in Zen, sometimes we use a particular language or way of using words that points to something beyond what the conceptual mind can understand. It's not a riddle. It's not something that the mind is supposed to figure out, but because of our addiction to thought, because of our conditioned addiction to thought, we try to figure it out with our mind. It's just a reaction. It's a habit. We've been conditioned all our life to do this. And even as you're listening to me, your mind is probably trying to figure it out and comparing it to what other people have taught and what other people are saying. I invite you not to do that. I invite you to let all of that figuring it out go. And open your mind up to just not knowing anything. In this emptiness, you will find true silence. And you will find truth. Because it's always here. Everything is truth. Where could it go? And yet you cannot understand it through your mind. In Zen, we often talk about awakening as being, as Satori, awakening to this, to truth. And it's as if you're struck dumb because you can't speak about it. You experience it, but there's nothing you can say. Because it's beyond words and thoughts. And yet, we have this direct experience of it. And if we're fortunate and keep our practice alive, we live in this direct experience of it. and use words and thoughts, but are no longer used by them, no longer believe that they're truth, because we experience truth directly. So we don't need the imaginary words and thoughts telling us that this is truth, or we don't need that anymore. We don't need beliefs anymore. We live in truth. And of course, we always do. Whether you realize it or not, you do. You always have. You were born into truth as truth. As a newborn infant, truth. A fetus, truth. Before your parents met each other, truth. Everything is truth. And yet we cannot understand this with our minds. It doesn't help that we believe this. It's neither good or bad to believe it, but it doesn't help us realize it. We have to move beyond our beliefs, even our belief that everything is truth, even our belief in anything that I'm saying. We have to move beyond that to directly experience truth itself. To let go of our addiction to thought, our addiction to trying to understand it with our mind, our addiction to trying to figure it out, and just relax into being without knowing what that is. We can't know what being is. We can't know what presence is. Presence is not presence. It's truth. Being is not being. It's truth. Everything is truth. Right now, you are truth listening to truth. I'm very happy that many people that I work with on Zoom, so that they can talk to me and let me know what's going on, say that the words I use just sort of flow through them, and they don't attach to them, and they listen with their heart. They listen to it with their being. Something opens up in them. And I'm very happy for that, because that is real communication. If all you hear are my words, then you've completely missed it. And that's not what I'm pointing to. I'm not pointing to words. I'm not pointing to more thoughts or more knowledge. I'm pointing to the direct experience, your direct experience of something that's beyond words and thoughts. Something that when you experience it, it will be like you're struck dumb because you cannot tell anybody about it. I mean, you can say, oh my God, I had this amazing experience, and you'll try. The mind is addicted. It will try to explain it. But if you're honest with yourself, you realize there really is nothing I can say. Because this is beyond words and thoughts. It's neither sound nor silence, neither existing nor not existing. Nothing that we can say about it, nothing that we can think about it, is what it is. If you move towards it, you move away from it. Trying to move towards it, you move away. Why is that? Because you're using your thoughts. To move towards it, you have a thought, a goal. This is what I want. I want to wake up. I want to experience truth. I want to be enlightened. So we have this thought about what these things are: truth, enlightenment, freedom from suffering. We have these thoughts about what that means. And those thoughts are not what they are. Those thoughts are distracting us from what is here in this moment. If we move towards it, we imagine that it's something that's going to happen in the future. And we ignore and are distracted from the fact that it is always right here. It is always right now. It cannot be anyplace else. Right now, in this moment, this is truth. You are truth. You are not what you think you are. You are truth. These words that I'm speaking are not what you think they are. They are truth. It doesn't mean you should be attached to them like, oh my God, that's truth. Let me write it down. No, it's not what you think they are. The words are not what you think they are. Nobody's words are what you think they are. Everybody's words are truth. We know in the US that Donald Trump is a liar, he's always lying, but in fact his words are truth. They're just not what we think they are. It doesn't mean he's telling the truth, of course he's not. But the fact that there is a word, the fact that there is a sound, the fact that there is a living body or a dead body is truth. The fact that your breath is breathing oxygen in through your nose and out through your nose is truth. The fact that you can hear these words is truth. It's all truth. And it's all the same truth. And none of it is what you think it is. It's not just you. None of it is what I think it is either. None of it is what Buddha thought it was, or Ramana thought it was. Thoughts are not truth, and yet they are truth, because everything is truth. But what we think they are is not truth. What we think thoughts are is not truth. And this is what all awakened beings know and understand. Yes, you know, isn't it wonderful that so many awakened beings have used words to try and help us and try and point us to this obvious thing, which is the nature of truth, the nature of reality, the nature of you. Isn't this amazing and wonderful and so incredible? And we're so lucky. We're so fortunate to have this. And yet these words themselves, all of them are only pointing to truth. They are not truth itself. Truth is neither silence nor sound. And truth is silence and sound. I told you your mind would be frustrated by this. Truth is not silence nor sound, and truth is silence and sound. Both of these are true. But in order to understand this, you have to let go of your concepts of what silence and sound are and what truth is. You have to let go of all your concepts and not chase after it. Just be here, present. Experience something that's more than thought. You are more than thought. You have always been more than thought, and you always will be more than thought. You are truth itself. The same truth of the Buddha, the same truth of Ramana. Right now, you are this. And all of your life, you have never been separate from it, nor has anyone else. What you chase after is a dream. All you're seeking is a dream. You're seeking a dream. It is never what you think it is. It is neither duality nor non-duality. It is beyond all thought. And this doesn't mean that it's some mystical thing. Whatever idea you have about it is not anything that you think it is. It's not anything that you think it is. And it is far more wonderful than anything you could imagine. And yet it's not what you think it is. And when you realize it, you will also realize that it's not what you think it is. And hopefully you will stop making thoughts about it. You'll stop believing any thoughts that you do make or anybody else makes, including me, including my words and thoughts. You don't want to be attached to this either. Let go and experience actual truth. That's all I want for you. Your direct experience. I have no words to tell you that I want you to believe in. I don't want you to believe in any words. I don't want you to believe any thoughts. Let it all go, and you experience directly truth. I'd like to ask you whether, and you can reply to me on Facebook, since this is on Facebook, if it would be okay to start an hour earlier, because with daylight savings time, it's actually 8 p.m. in Sedona, in Arizona, even though Pacific time it's 7 p.m. And I wanted to be consistent, keep it on Pacific time. My friends Gina and Nirmala have been teaching for many, many years. And you know, I followed their advice to do that, to just keep it consistent rather than saying, you know, trying to have people adjust to Arizona time, not going along with daylight savings time, because almost every other place does. But it gets late for me. And when I do the Zoom thing afterwards, then I'm starting Zoom at 9 p.m., which is a little bit late for me. So, but it's okay. Whatever you like, you know, just respond and tell me if you think it's good to do it keep doing it at Pacific time at 7 p.m. or if you'd rather do it at 6 p.m. And also there are people in different parts of the world, so they have different time zones and I don't know what they are. So this would be helpful to have a response. If enough people say, keep it at 7 p.m. Pacific time, then I will be happy to do that. And if people say, no, I'd rather have you move it to 6 p.m., then I will be happy to do that as well. Thank you, my friends. We can live in freedom from thought. You know, there's some fear that when we experience freedom from thought and we no longer believe any of our thoughts as truth, as tools, we use them as tools, but we no longer believe any of them, that it would be difficult functioning in the world. It's just what our thoughts tell us. It couldn't be any more untrue. because in fact we function far better. We're free of the worries and fears and self-doubts and lack of confidence and all these other things that come along with our self-image made through thoughts. And we open to what's more, to presence, to being, to what really is, to life. And it is beyond anything that I can tell you, beyond anything that I can say. But you need to experience this directly. You must have this direct experience. It's not enough to have thoughts about it or beliefs about it. No matter how strongly you believe something, it's still just a thought. It's not reality. It's not the thing itself. Silence is not silence. Sound is not sound. It's much more than that. More than any words can describe. You are infinitely more than anything that you can possibly imagine. Maybe, perhaps, you're feeling that now. There's a resonance in you that's waking up. An intuitive sense that, yes, I don't know what this is, but something is more than I thought before. Something is opening. And yes, the mind, the conditioning, the addiction, the conditioned addiction of the mind will have you trying to understand what it is. And that's okay, that happens. But the deeper you go into this experience, the less you will feel a need to understand it with your mind. And eventually you'll realize that you never can, that the mind is limited in its ability to understand truth. It cannot understand truth. It can understand many things, and it's extremely clever. That's wonderful. This cleverness, this understanding so many different things in our complex society. It's wonderful, miraculous that it can do all this. But it cannot understand truth. That's the one thing it cannot understand. And if we don't understand truth, if we don't directly experience and live truth, we're living in a dream. As almost all of humanity does. But you don't have to. You can wake up.